Hey, this is Joshua Tarbutton, and you are watching Influencing Entrepreneurs.
After years of teaching entrepreneurship and consulting business owners, I realized that true knowledge comes from the wins and losses of those entrepreneurs. These are the stories of those business leaders. I'm Cassmer Ward, and this is Influencing Entrepreneurs. Today we have with us Josh Tarbutton with Bravo Team. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Where does your journey to entrepreneurship begin?
I would say I've always had the bug in terms of always trying to see an opportunity and make something of it, or, create something that the market would want.
All the way back to childhood?
If you go all the way back to childhood, I'd say, I sold Current magazine from door to door because I realized they had 3 prices. So if I could order enough, I could get the lowest price. So
Current magazine. What is Current magazine?
It was just a magazine that had a bunch of, say, Christmas tins, cookie tins, other like cutting boards, sort of like a gift magazine.
So you find out how to get your wholesale pricing so you can get out and sell it at retail.
Yeah, and as a kid, I would take the magazine and I would go door to door throughout the whole neighborhood and be like, is there anything in here you want? I'll give you the middle price. And then I would buy everything for the smallest price. And then I would order everything. It all came in.
You're taking orders.
I took orders. I would have them pick it, but I would sit there with them like an awkward 12-year-old or however old I was. And I think they purchased, to kind of encourage me. But then I realized that I did all this work, harvested all this product, then went and delivered it. And I got something like $20. So it was,
your cut was very, very minimal.
Yeah.
So, and you're not even selling for a cause like most 12-year-olds. You're just like, no, this is my business.
I just saw that there was a delta between the pricing.
Yeah.
So there was an opportunity for profit.
Yeah. So at the very end, the opportunity was there. It just wasn't rich enough to keep going.
Right.
Yeah. So you go through school. Do you have any other ventures along the way?
In college, I started a cleaning company, pet sitting company, and lawn care company.
Is it all the same company or?
Yeah, I still had a lot to learn. So
Okay.
It was sort of like home services.
Okay.
And the idea was deliver the service through students who needed extra income. So I would have a guy, he would come to my house, pick up my lawnmower, go mow somebody else's lawn, and then bring me a check, and I would pay him, a portion of it.
So how many students are you able to round up for your workforce?
I think that was short-lived because I was in grad school at that time, and my wife and I we had 4 kids while I was finishing on my degrees, and so it was busy. So I didn't have a lot of extra time. I realized I had to let it go.
So what are you in grad school for?
Mechanical engineering.
Okay. And is the goal just to get your master's, your PhD?
Initially, it was just to finish my bachelor's.
Okay.
And then I wasn't really satisfied with my knowledge level. And so I said, well, why don't I go for the master's? And then I thought, why don't I go for the PhD? Because I wanted to have the opportunity to teach. I did not have a GED or a diploma because I was homeschooled. And I knew how hard it was for some of the younger, some of the students were not as prepared. My situation was a little bit different because my mom died and she was obviously my teacher. And so the last few years of school were a little patchy. So when I came to engineering school at Georgia Tech, I was really at the very bottom of the preparation, I would say. And so I always thought, well, if I'm ever a professor, I'm going to make it a lot easier for the students to
make it accessible.
Understand. Yeah. That confidence that, or lack of confidence that students can have can really just rob them of opportunity when they think they can't be successful. And I didn't really have any backup plan. And so it was also a little bit of survival for me to stay in school. So I had an extra level of motivation that not everybody has because I really didn't have anywhere else to go from there. So I kind of had to finish.
What was the plan? Why did you want to be a mechanical engineer?
I heard that engineers made things, and I was always fascinated with how things worked. My dad told me a story that when I could barely talk, I asked him, why don't birds get electric? And he was really confused. And what I was trying to ask him is like, these are high power voltage lines, which somebody had told me because I asked a lot of questions, and birds could land on them, but they don't get electrocuted.
Right.
So I think that way that my brain was wired is always trying to understand how things worked.
Having this plan to be a mechanical engineer, like, was there ever a thought of quitting just because it was too hard?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I probably would have if it wasn't for a mentor that I had met. So when my mom was sick, there was a person that we went to church with who had a company, All American Vending and Office Coffee Service. His wife would come and just realized, my mom was becoming more and more frail, and I was pretty high energy. She said, why don't Josh go and work with my husband? When I'm coming, he can bring him back. So he would drop her off, take me to work with him. I think I started when I was 12, and that's how I met Lee, who later became my mentor. And after my mom died, he realized, okay, you don't have a GED, you don't have a diploma, you're not really in a good position for success. And, you're working at a vending company, and he crafted a plan. So Lee helped me, and I ended up actually pretending like I was a high school student, enrolling in a program for high school students to take college classes. And so I did well enough that they gave me a provisional acceptance to go to school. And this is at Piedmont College in Northeast Georgia. And that's where I met my wife during our freshman year. And then I transferred to Georgia Tech after I had 35 hours. So it's kind of a backdoor into the school system. If once you get a certain number of hours in the state of Georgia, you can transfer to other universities.
So do you end up teaching at USC?
I taught at USC for 4 years. Okay. Yeah.
And then you eventually end up into your own business.
Yes.
What is that business? Bravo Team.
Bravo Team. So after USC, I was recruited to come teach at UNCC in Charlotte, where I taught for 5 years. Okay. And professors are not particularly overpaid at most universities. And so I would do consulting on the side to earn a little bit of extra income. So I could earn, an extra $30,000 a year just by doing consulting. But then everything that I was doing was taken away from my kids or from the quality of the other things that I was doing. It really wasn't a sustainable way of doing things. And I had a neighbor at the time who had an idea. I told him that I would redesign it, which I did. And some people wanted to invest in it, but they wanted a big cut of the company. I said, well, let's not do that. So instead of, diluting the company right off the bat, I said, well, why don't we just start a company? And we did. That was the first company. My brother helped us out with that to get started. And long story short, I ended up getting voted out of that company. And at the time I thought, well, as a professor, I really don't have enough time to be running a company. But then I ended up doing most of the running of the company during that year, so that when I got it voted out, one of the customers that we'd established a relationship said, well, why don't you just go out on your own? We got a project, just hire some of your students. And so I think I was voted out on a Wednesday, and by like Tuesday the next week, I had, a new company, filed the LLC, got my EIN, and then hired 2 students who were on one of my senior design teams that had graduated. And we started Bravo Team to provide engineering services to companies.
I've got to ask, why or how did you get voted out?
I got voted out because integrity is a big deal, and I felt like there was a compromise of integrity.
Okay.
And
everybody defines it differently, but the only one we can own is our own.
Yes. And so we had taken some investment, and because of this issue, I went to the investors and I said, hey, this doesn't work for me. This is a problem. Mm-hmm. But then it backfired on me, because then it became like, well, I'm the problem.
Yeah, you're being insubordinate.
Yeah. And so 2 days later, and I felt like I got hit by a bus.
It feels like betrayal. It feels, I can imagine. Did they do you a favor by voting you out?
They did. They really did. And I think it's a good moment to pause because I could interpret it different ways. And I think the way that we interpret these challenging events definitely shapes how the rest of the story goes.
And Bravo Team is focused on what? Because you got all into this to create things and make
Yes.
things.
Yes. And so we are in the business of creating what doesn't exist. For a company, if they have a process that they need that they can't go buy a machine for, we will design the machine. If there's somebody who has a product idea that doesn't exist or they want to introduce a product, we can design that product. So we've designed quite a number of machines, a number of automation cells, and a handful of consumer products.
A lot of the stories you shared, like, from your mentor at the vending company to the help you needed to, go to college, your brother helped, your neighbor and your brother again came in. And not until you're voted out are you doing something on your own for the first time.
Yeah.
How does that be the one that ends up being the most successful out of everything, the one you did on your own?
Well, part of it is when it's just you, I think you bear all the responsibility. So you have to do what needs to be done. And if it was possible for me to take care of the family, then I would do whatever it took to make sure it all worked. And I did everything. I did all the sales. I did the hiring. I did the marketing. I helped do the fulfillment. I did all the bookkeeping. And, I'm an engineering professor, so I had a lot to learn.
Right.
And fortunately, there's a lot of great people that will help. I think people show up to help when you put yourself in a circumstance where you need your help. It's almost like you see somebody drowning and you're like, okay, I'll give you a hand.
You're right.
So I think like I've put myself in that state of almost drowning enough times where people have showed up and given me what I needed when I needed it and helped me get there.
Again, the commonality of your goal all the way from selling from Current Magazine, you do realize you wanted to create something. What is something you've created with Bravo Team that you're like, this is it?
Yeah, people ask that, what project are we the most proud of? And I would say like the greatest machine that I've ever had a hand in designing is actually the company itself. So it is the most beautiful organization of talented people. We have 30 engineers. We have 22 mechanical. About half of them are mechatronics focused, and 8 computer and electrical, and then 6 machinists and fabricators. And they're just some of the most brilliant people, and they pour their heart into their designs, and the customers respond very well to the quality of the work that we do, how quickly we can get the work done. So that's probably the most fascinating. We did invent our own product, our own consumer product, which is the Bravo Walk. It's a dog collar that trains your dog not to pull automatically on a leash. And if you go to our website, bravowalk.com, the reviews are, changed my life. I enjoy walking again.
Going all the way back to your days with Current Magazine and working with your mentor at the vending company, what is the most powerful lesson you learned there that plays an important role in Bravo Team?
I think it's actually quite simple, and it's just showing up. Once as an entrepreneur, you do get more, you can get more autonomy over your time, and the pressures are pretty high because, as you grow, more and more people are depending on you. So the tendency to what I call going into the shame spiral, and maybe yesterday didn't go, or an employee quit, or customer is expressing dissatisfaction. These things can all, if your heart is in it, like mine is, those things always land, right at the heart. And so not allowing myself to feel less than, or not letting the past dictate the future, and just, waking up and showing up, I feel like is so much of the battle. Brene Brown said it the best. She said, don't puff up, and don't shrink back. Stand your sacred ground and allow yourself to be seen. And that's pretty much been a mantra that I've adopted. But I think even at the vending company, getting up at, 4:00 in the morning, loading up the trucks, doing 19 stops, getting to bed at, 10 o'clock at night, and then doing it again the next day, you learn sort of the value of just continuing to have forward motion. And so if there's any place where somebody didn't maybe perform the way that I expected, then I have to ask myself, well, what could I have done differently to set them up for success? So it's not quite like the extreme ownership Jocko Willink approach, but it is just knowing that you're responsible
And showing up.
All
right. Well, Josh, I really appreciate you being here today, and thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for watching. To watch more episodes of Influencing Entrepreneurs, be sure to subscribe on YouTube at Nexagy Education.